Amir,
Yes,
you fired up today?
I'm fired of it. Always with a good conversation, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about to go down, folks. We're about to light it up in here. So tell us, let me give you a little preface of how we're going to run this. We're going to do two parts, right? First part is what exactly are you doing today? What does your day to day look like? And then we also want to give the audience some tactical slash practical things that they can take away and implement in their own lives. Because for you to do what you're doing and get where you are, you've made some huge strides. So maybe share with them a little bit about that. Part two, we're going to talk about your story.
Okay.
And we're going to go deep.
Okay.
So stay tuned, folks. Amir, what have you got going on right now?
Yeah. So, I run a startup, and it's probably my most formidable challenge to date.
Hmm.
It keeps me really, really busy. I've been at it for a number of years, and more than 5, more than 6. I probably have been prepped for this for all my life because my sickness began in my pre-adolescence. So I feel like my entire life, when I think about all the machinations, the ins and outs, the experiences on Wall Street and getting divorced and kids and raising them full time, was preparation for my most formidable time, which is now. And formidable challenge, I should say. Formidable challenge.
And Amir, take some time to think about how you can be proud of yourself for choosing that perspective. You could choose it to say, "Oh, this stuff ruined my life. Worst thing ever. Poor me."
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
No, you said, "You know what? This stuff sharpened me."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's I'm privileged. I'm privileged to be in this position that I was chosen to bring this to the world.
Because it's your freaking calling.
It is my calling.
And you know you're in it.
Yes.
That's why when you wake up every day, it doesn't feel like work.
Yes, it does not. It does not, even though it is. As founder, it is, if anybody's a founder amongst the listeners, they know that it's a lonely existence.
Dude. Success is lonely, isn't it?
Success is lonely. Yeah. And you want to surround yourself by people who have experienced as such, so that when you have conversation, there's always that given that, yeah, I know what you're going through.
100%.
Yeah. Those are hard to find, by the way.
Well, shoot, when you think about the statistics, right?
Yeah.
Think about the quote unquote financially successful, not employees, but entrepreneurs, people that went out on their own to do the hard thing, right? The numbers, right? There's not that many of them.
No, there aren't.
Right.
More failures. What is the stat? 95%?
If it was that, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you're in this wonderful city called Austin, Texas.
Yes.
Where it's full of fired up people like that.
Indeed.
More than most. What's the name of your startup?
Modgarden.
Modgarden? Holy crap. That's a good one. That makes perfect sense. So tell us, what does Modgarden, what's the goal of Modgarden?
To bring the farm to the urbanite, to change the food paradigm, the sickly food paradigm that we exist in today, that we're experiencing today. There's so much to say about this, because when I think about food, I think about food that I see in grocery stores, and it's, that movie, The Sixth Sense. I see dead people. I see dead food.
Dude,
I see dead food everywhere.
Dead.
No life. Yes, dead.
The cereal aisle?
Yeah.
It's an aisle of darkness.
That's right, it is. And I'm looking at vegetables. Like, I'm looking at Whole Foods, fruits and vegetables, and when I see them, it saddens me that most of the world they just don't know what they're eating, and they don't know what they're getting. They don't really know how it's being cultivated, how it's being grown. And I'm trying to bring I like to go to first principles. And we live in an urban environment. And what's first principles for food? Well, if you think about 50 to 100 years ago, we used to live around farms.
Mm.
So first principles in food and farming is we used to get up in the morning. There were no cars 100 years ago, or there were very few people, the privileged had cars. And they used to walk to their food, pick it, and it was on their table in minutes or hours. And you were enjoying it. Nutrient-dense food, nutrient-rich food, food that was vibrant, food that was full of energy.
Yes.
Vitality. Today, that food is dead. That food is on our table days or weeks and even months after harvest.
Yeah.
And so first principles are, I want to change that paradigm to first principles, which is bring living food to urban centers.
A couple of things come to mind when you say that. One, what an initiative, right? It's like you're stripping away all the crap, all the facade, all the mistrust to something in our lives that is so important. And is prolific the term? Prolific? What I mean?
Prolific.
It's prolific. It's there 3 meals a day, whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need it.
Pervasive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's so tainted right now.
Yeah.
So let's go back. Let's turn back the clock to the first principle.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the second thing I was thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on a farm. And the farmer,
lucky you.
Yeah, the farmer, he's getting up there in age, right?
Yes.
But the dude is a workhorse. I remember being like 75 on the back of a hay bale thing, getting hit by 45-pound hay bales, crushing him in the back. He had a heart transplant, dude.
That's right.
A heart transplant. He's still eating his stuff, homemade salads from the garden, right? And he's a champion.
Yes.
He's one of the most healthiest, sharp guys I've ever met. And it's got to be because of his food.
Yes. That is first principles. That's exactly right. You hit it right on the head, actually, if I'm going to take that up.
Yeah.
Our food today is grown by corporations. 99% of our food is sprayed with some sort of a pesticide. 99+% of our food. The organic farmer that you just described is disappearing. They grew their food. The organic farmer grew his food with love and care. You used to walk to his farm and he used to get all excited. Hey, what do you have for me today? Oh my God, this is what I have today. I've got this amazing lettuce that I grew and it's like this strain, this heirloom variety, and I've got these tomatoes. Just taste those tomatoes. Taste them right now. Yeah. Boom, boom. And you could see it. You could feel the energy, the love that he spent toiling away, growing the food for the love of us. Is that around anymore? Does that exist even today? And I'm speaking specifically about the corporations that are largely growing our food.
Yeah.
And we need to start, getting back to that principle of growing food with love and care instead of commodifying it. For instance, Whole Food is owned by Amazon. Amazon is in the business of selling stuff. So iPhone cases and whatever else. And what are they in the business for? Making profit, extracting the maximum amount of profit out of that stuff that they're selling. And now they own Whole Foods. What do you think that mentality is that they're bringing to Whole Foods? Maximizing the profit, extracting the fullness of profit out of that food that they're serving you. They're not growing it, or they're not sourcing it, perhaps in like small forays here and there. I hear that they're speaking to small farmers, but largely speaking, they're in the business of making profit. And that's the juxtaposition. That's the balancing act. That's the spillover. You're either on that side or you're on this side. And largely speaking, today we're on that side, which is extracting the maximum amount of profit of the food that is being sold to us.
Yeah.
And it does not contain that good energy anymore. And that matters. I know I'm not trying to be esoteric with the use of the word energy, but it matters. You go to a burger joint And you've got this teenager flipping burgers, throwing it here, throwing the meat, which is a living entity. It has energy in it.
Yeah.
And we're going to put that energy into our bodies.
Yeah.
Do you want someone who's just slapped it around? And not to mention how the cow was raised or the animal was raised prior to that in these oppressive conditions where they're held in these lots, CAFOs, as they concentrated animal feeding operations is what that stands for.
Oof.
And they're standing in their own feces, you can go on and on.
Saw videos.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they're being mass fed, force fed, some sort of a item that fattens them up so they can weigh the meat bigger. And then, now that's a pre-processing. And now we're in the post-processing where you're at the burger joint. The food's being chucked around and it lands on your plate. Do you think that's good energy? Do you think that animal was happy? Well, you just ate a burger from an animal that was not happy, and that energy is going inside of us. So I'm very careful about what I put inside my body. And if you just look at the world today, we're all just running around. We're busy in our lives. We don't have time. Where's that love and care?
Yeah.
And it comes from food. It comes from the farmer. It comes from the preparers. It comes from the people who treat the animals well or not. And it matters. It matters what goes into our body. And, you can see we're the sickest generation to date. And you've heard it. I don't want to get into cliches and all that, but, the best I can say is that we're in a crisis point where, the food is just not what it should be.
It's crazy.
And for the last 5 decades, life expectancies have been falling in the United States. The United States is one of most of the G7. The life expectancies have been falling, and for 50 years it's been a downward trend. And guess where America is now? We're the most progressed, technologically advanced, or just advanced country in the world. We brag about all kinds of lifestyle, the privileges that we have. But where are we ranked in the world in 100 and out of 190 odd countries?
I think 196, 195. Yeah. A lot of countries.
There's a lot of countries, yeah. Huh? We're 53rd.
Come on.
Yeah, we're 53rd.
That's low.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that affects us. Us in our, middle ages. If we're not careful about what we're putting into our bodies, that's where we're going to end up. We're going to end up in the
obesity rate.
Yes.
It's crazy.
It is.
Here.
Yes.
It's what, 50+%?
It's definitely over 35%. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And getting worse.
So let's talk a little bit about two words. You've got organic.
Yes.
And then the opposite is crap.
Yes.
Okay. What else can be organic? You know what can be? Somebody's artwork. Let's call that organic, right?
Yep.
More people like the organic artwork than they would like a mass printed piece. I think.
Yes.
I think
100%.
Yeah. And the Hollywood studios, right? You take the film that was created by the producer that made it for them. It's a masterpiece. Now, if you take the film where the team makes it to be attractive to the masses, it's crap. It's crap. The food your mom used to make, right? It tasted a little bit better.
Yes, it did.
Because she made it with love, with her passion.
That's right.
With her heart.
Imagine that.
Right? And if you go to the restaurant and you got some kid flipping a burger around.
That's why they say, imagine your grandma's cooking.
Yes.
You're catapulted back to that time where your grandma was cooking for you with love and care. Why do they say that? It's more than her cooking. It's more than the actual mechanics of putting ingredients together. It's that love.
The energy.
Exactly.
The love.
Exactly.
It's an under-taught
Yes.
underspoken
Yes.
entity that needs to have more awareness around it.
Yes.
Because it's real. There's no denying it.
There's no denying it.
So when it comes to food, you got organic and you got crap.
100%.
So what you're doing,
Yep.
you're saying, how can we get the organic
Yeah.
in people's hands?
Around the corner.
Around
the corner. Steps away from where you live.
without having to drive to the farm.
Without having to drive to the farm. Now, I'm not saying we're replacing farms.
Okay.
Or we're not replacing. Yeah, we cannot. I'm doing it for some small sliver of a food group. Greens. Let's just say greens. And it's an entry point into this new paradigm that I'm trying to introduce back into the world that we used to live in before 100 years ago. And this new paradigm is, or this new entry point is, what does food taste like? What does food taste like when it's grown with love and care? What does food taste like when it's grown in meticulously curated soil? And soil is living. You know, when you look at soil, you're like, how is this living? Well, it's the same as a city. The analogy I'll give is a city. If you take a city, you can call a city a dead city or a living city. What's the difference? The livingness of the city is the water flowing through the pipes, the electricity flowing through the veins of the city, and then the people and the various professions of the people, doctors, lawyers, engineers, plumbers, electricians, all doing stuff. And then the highways harmoniously intertwining through the city buildings and in and out. And it's humming along. That's what gives a city, which would otherwise be dead if that wasn't the case, its livingness. It's the same with soil. Soil is like a city. There are fungi network that are the superhighways for the microbes. And there's, to date, I've counted 150,000 different microbial species that exist, just like professions, doctors, lawyers, and they all have jobs to do.
Yeah.
All these microbes have jobs to do. And so that's what gives soil its livingness. So when I say meticulously curated, I'm making soil, and I'm making soil that takes us back 100 years or even 50 years if it was untreated to grow food that was living. Today, that practice is chemicals. So because we don't understand microbes, microbes are a little bit of an anecdote.
Yeah, and tell us.
Microbes outnumber our cells. Some people say we have 30 trillion cells. Some people say it's 70 trillion cells. It's somewhere in between there. We have 20 times more microbes than the number of cells in our bodies.
What?
Yeah, it's a ridiculous. That's how critical a role microbes play in life. And corporations and these men, these scientists, come over and say, oh, I can grow a plant a little bit better by putting nitrogen, NPK. That's a big nomenclature. NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium.
Sounds like crap.
It's basically, so nitrogen exists, right, in the atmosphere. But there's something called a nitrogen-fixing bacteria. A nitrogen-fixing bacteria gets called by the plant, and the plant says, I need nitrogen. And the nitrogen-fixing bacteria rises to the surface, breaks down the atmosphere, harnesses the nitrogen, and brings it to drink, let the plant drink from it. And then when the plant is done, and if there's excess left over, it's released back into the atmosphere. It's a huge symbiotic, harmonious existence that we have very little knowledge about. And so these corporations and these scientists have come along and said, wow, when I inject the soil with nitrogen and copious amounts of nitrogen, the plant grows faster, the plant grows bigger, because they're chasing yield. They think that we have a food security problem in the world. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to make more and more food so that they can send food to Africa or something like that. I don't know. We don't have a food security problem because we waste across the world. We waste around 30 to 35% of food. We have a distribution problem.
Oh, yeah.
We have a distribution
Did y'all hear that? We waste 30 to 35%
across. Canada is, one of the breadbaskets of the world. They're up to like 50% food waste. They waste their 50% of food.
What?
At least that was a statistic 2-3 years ago.
And there's people starving.
Well, now here's the nuance. I don't believe we have a food security issue. We have a nutrient security issue. As long as we're getting our nutrients, we won't die.
Right.
And what is that? A nutrient? What is a nutrient? A nutrient is something that we get from food. We can get it from other sources, but the plant primary source is food. We take that nutrient in, and that nutrient we take that food in, right? So it comes from plant sources, fruit sources, animal sources, etc. When we eat that food item, it goes into our body, and then it gets into our intestines. It's broken down, and then the elements are extracted. The vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids, the enzymes, if they have the food, if they're in there, if it's not cooked out. And it gets extracted from our small intestine and into the superhighway of our bloodstream. And then those nutrients are then sent to every single one of our cells that need those nutrients. The magnesiums, the manganese, the cobalts of the world.
Yeah.
The key is absorption of those. I'm getting a little sciencey on
No, this is fantastic.
Okay.
I like the detail.
Okay.
Yeah.
The key is that nutrient going to enter your cell or not? And the way it was grown is going to be the determinant of whether that nutrient enters your cell or not. And so there's a couple of aspects to this.
Dude.
Was it grown biologically or was it grown chemically? And just going back, I'm just going to make a sweeping statement again. 99% of our food is grown chemically.
That's not good.
And so that nutrient that's being transported is actually seen as a chemical in our body. And so when our body sees it, the liver flushes it out.
Bruh.
Or attempts to flush it out because it sees it as a toxin.
Yeah.
And so we don't get our nutrients. And therefore we get sicker and sicker and sicker. So all of these diseases, heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, you name it.
Yeah.
The majority of them, I'm not a doctor, okay? The majority of them, so I'm not going to say, things that might be outlandish. The majority of them can be solved with better food choices, meaning biologically grown food choices. So, going back to that statement I made, we have we have a nutrient security problem as opposed. The metric is wrong. The yield that they're chasing, or the metric that they're chasing, which is yield. Monsanto's of the world. Oh, we need to genetically modify things to grow faster. We need to genetically modify things so that they don't die when we spray them with pesticides. That's chasing yield to create more food for people that don't really need it, and their empty calories or their empty nutrients, versus us getting food that is full of nutrients that are absorbable at the cellular level. It's not enough to say nutrient dense. We need to say biologically derived nutrient absorbability.
Biologically derived nutrient absorbability.
Yeah.
Biologically derived.
Yeah, I just made that up.
Absorbability.
Hey, but that's kind of.
Oh, and you know what? I'll tell you something. That sounds like the fundamental level of food. That's the base of where food should be. And if you're not eating that,
yes,
that quality,
that's right.
It's trash.
That's right.
Pure trash.
Yeah, it's worse than trash. It's worse than trash. It's actually poisonous to us.
And I can only imagine. Look, what comes to mind? You might know about this. I don't know. The fake sugar, like Splenda.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. What does your body do to that? Because that's fake as a fake gets.
Yeah. So what your body does to that is so there's a sensation on your tongue, the sweetness of the sensation on your tongue.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's derived. It's created in a lab using a chemical process or a synthetic process, all the same thing. When I say chemical, when I say synthetic, it means it's not done in nature. It's not found in nature. Yes, sure. Stevia is found in nature and monk fruit is found in nature. But what they're doing is they're just duplicating that molecule or that element and harnessing it in a lab, manipulating it in some way to make it stronger, which is like medicine, and then making something out of it, sugar or medicines. It's basically medicine. And so when you eat it or when you ingest it, you might feel the sensation of the taste of that particular fake sugar on your tongue. Yeah. But when it enters into your body, your liver recognizes it as a toxin or as something that isn't meant to be in your body. And so then your liver tries to get rid of it. But now here's what's going on today is that the liver will get rid of it. Our bodies are super efficient and our liver does get rid of toxins. But if you're constantly slashing the axe 3 times a day or however many times you eat, and you're not giving your body a chance to get rid of toxins, and you keep on just piling them on, Splenda in the mornings, inorganic coffee in the morning, the hormone milk in the morning, that's one. Then there's the eggs. If they're not pasture-raised eggs, those are toxic to you. And the toast, the
day
wheat,
after day after day.
Oh, yeah, hour after hour or meal after meal, your body is like, I'm getting tired. And eventually it just gives up. So getting into a little bit of the weeds here, very, very briefly.
Let's do it.
The food comes in and the liver tries to get rid of it. After it gets extracted through your intestines, the liver tries to get rid of it. If the liver is overwhelmed, what it will do is it will sock it away into fat cells. That's the storage.
No kidding.
And that's the cause of obesity.
What?
The pandemic, not the pandemic
epidemic?
Or the epidemic. Yes, it's a pandemic too. The epidemic of obesity is toxicity in the body that the body doesn't know what to do with, and so it's socking it away into fat cells. So that when the liver is underwhelmed, meaning in repair mode, it can take it back out and flush it out. But if you constantly barrage it, it's going to sock it away into fat cells. It's going to sock it away into your tissue.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. I was an eczema sufferer. That is how I got to this whole thing. I'm not a biologist, by the way. I'm not anything. I'm a finance guy, actually, if anything. Right. But I'm an analyst, and I don't accept the way things are. I accept the way nature is, and I want to meet nature where it is. And so my whole realm is to go back to those first principles of how nature existed and to try and, bring this forward again.
Let's marinate on that for just a second here. Man, that's really, really good. And I'm thinking about McDonald's right now.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Trash, poison, right? People eating McDonald's, they're getting overweight because the liver's getting overworked on that stuff.
Yep.
And it's putting in the fat.
So Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, is that what it's called? I don't know. It's in Texas here.
Yeah.
So
it's delicious, by the way.
Their chicken has chicken. How many ingredients are in chicken? It's just supposed to be chicken. Chicken.
Maybe flour and egg for the batter.
Okay.
That's it.
I think the number was, there's 254 ingredients in that Chick-fil-A, or 65. I don't know. It's some ridiculous number.
What?
In their Chick-fil-A or Chick-fil-A or whatever it is.
In the sandwich?
In the sandwich.
It's just bread and chicken.
Yes, it's a massive list of ingredients.
You're kidding.
Designed to pull you in. Designed to habitually pull you in.
To make it taste good.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan said he's like, the human race really screwed ourselves over by making things taste so good.
Yeah.
Like Doritos chips.
Yeah.
Every ounce of energy has been poured into those Doritos chips to make them just delicious.
So I have taste memory. So, I'm really 96 years old. I'm just kidding. I have taste memory. I've lived around the world. I've lived in Nigeria. I've lived in England. I was born in England. I've lived in Pakistan.
Oh, welcome to America.
Thank you. Thank you. And one of my fondest memories was when I used to walk to school. I used to pick blackberries off of the bushes as I was walking and eat them. And I was just in England last year. And I happened to be walking in a park and through like a foresty area. And I was like, oh my God, raspberries, blackberries, and just picked them off. That taste memory is what has been driving me today. I'm like, I've noticed food getting worse, but the tipping point for me was being sick.
Yeah.
The tipping point for me.
The eczema. Anything else?
Yeah, so when I was on Wall Street, my migraines had gotten so bad that I used to go to the ER to get them to relieve my pain.
Bro.
And they used to like pump me with Demerol. I used to beg for it.
I did not realize that migraines could get that bad.
They're debilitating. They're like you want to die. And I'm like, why is this happening? Yeah. So that's kind of what precipitated a deep dive into, well, what's going on with my body and why is it not pervasive? Why is it not pervasive? Why aren't other people suffering? Like, I feel like I'm normal. I feel like I eat normally.
Go to bed on time.
Yeah.
Not partying.
No. Don't drink or any of that. Yeah. But my hands were so bad that if you saw them, you'd think I have some form of leprosy or something like that. I wouldn't shake people's hands. I had to hide my hands. I mean, I was in a business where you had to shake hands, and he said, I hide my hands like that and cup them so that people wouldn't feel what my palms were like. And my palms were basically just sometimes oozing, but all scaly with the eczema. So it's really bad.
Yeah.
So that kind of precipitated this deeper dive.
You were looking for answers.
I was looking for answers. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right. So along your journey here, you've been doing this for maybe a little over 6 years, you said?
Yes.
All right. At what point in time did you get that inspiration?
Yeah. It happened after a personal black swan, if you will. I ended up quitting. It was in my personal life. I ended up quitting Wall Street in 2007 and running up with my family and going through sort of a personal family crisis. And we ended up going up to Toronto. And I spent a number of years just kind of looking into my health. And then somebody gave me magnesium for my headaches, as an example. There's other stuff, but, and my headaches went away. And the migraines went away. That I'm a lifelong sufferer.
So you took magnesium?
Yes.
From the store?
Somebody gave them to me. It wasn't exactly from the store, but...
Was it pharmaceutical grade magnesium?
It was a strong supplemental magnesium.
Very good.
Yes.
Yep. Somebody gave you some bottle of something, and all of a sudden, boom, migraine's gone.
Yes. After a few months, a few weeks, months, gone.
What?
Yeah.
What type of magnesium? There's a bunch.
Glycinate.
Magnesium glycinate.
Yeah. I'm not, don't,
no,
yeah.
What works for you might not work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Everyone's different. Yeah.
Now, you took that, and then, like, along that journey, let's get specific on when did the innovation strike to create the product?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the precipitating event that told me, I mean, like, okay, well, what the heck is magnesium? Remember, I'm a finance guy, right? I have no idea about food and biology and disease and all.
What is this?
Yeah. Like, what is this? And so the short answer is it's food, or it's supposed to be in food. And I'm like, okay. So I got that answer, and I'm like, okay, well, why does my food not have magnesium? And so I began to look into food, grocery stores, supply chains, farming, soil, organicness, and on. I'm like, oh my God, what I learned mortified me. The amount of industrialization and factorialization, if that's not a word, I know, but I just made it up. going on in our food system was just mortifying. It was a death knell. It was like, oh, what is that? What? And in sort of a separate but parallel life, I was also looking for a project to do because I was semi-retired.
Yeah.
After this personal crisis, I went into semi-retirement, and I raising my kids full time, traveling the world, and kind of looking for my next gig. Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do to do something that's going to be giving back to life, to people and humans and life and earth? And so at the same time, I was thinking about that, and that parallel thought was, what am I going to do when I grow up? This is after 15 years on Wall Street. And to me, what came up was, I want to solve the biggest problem in the world. And what came up was food and disease. And so during this parallel magnesium farming, research and all that, I'm like, aha, I just found it. I'm going to solve for food and disease.
Yeah.
And they're related. That's ultimately what I learned. And then one day I was like, okay, I'm going to help people grow the best food in their backyards. And I was in Toronto now. I'm going to help people grow the best food in their backyards. But I lived in a condo, and I don't have a backyard. I didn't even have a balcony backyard or balcony, whatever, growing space, because it was facing in the wrong direction. And I'm like, wait a second, I live in a condo. And I was looking at this wall in my kitchen, a beautiful like wall, but it had a slight indentation. And I'm like, no, I live in a condo, and there's millions and millions of people that live in condos. I'm going to help people like me grow food in their condos who don't have access to backyards. And that's where I started looking into vertical farming, which is the business that Modgarden is in.
Yeah.
And when I looked more into it, what I found was that vertical farming today is simply an extension of industrial agriculture. What they use are chemical bases, NPK, to grow their food in these hydroponic and aeroponic vertical farms. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to bring the organic farm into vertical farming. And that's what I'm doing.
Dang. So you were on the search to help with the world's biggest problem. Do you remember the time where you said that to yourself? Do you remember the place where you were when you said that?
Yes, I was in my apartment. I do remember.
How did it feel saying that statement?
Empowering. I know that's an overused word, but it felt like I had found my calling. Excellent question, by the way. I had found my calling. I have been in search of purpose all my life. And I woke up, if I wasn't a person of faith, I would have probably killed myself, because life as I saw it was not worth living. But the only reason I lived was because it's forbidden to take your own life. It's like committing murder.
Yeah.
And so I had to grin and bear it. And so I see people who are happy or content, no matter where they sit on the economic line, rich or poor. And I see people who are morbidly offensive and arrogant and just horrible to be around, which is a lot of the world. And, the difference was purpose. Are you content? Are you happy with why you exist and what you're doing in life? And so death for me has always been a centerpiece. I always think about it. And the reason why I always think about it is because I lost my mother when I was 13, early in life. And so for me, death is one of those things that can rear itself at any time. I'm now older than my mother was when she died. She was 38. And so for me, it's been a deep, deep, ambitious, almost like a desperate need to do something good, to do something worthwhile. If God has given me health in whatever fashion and Ivy League education and amazing experience on Wall Street and an amazing family, amazing kids, the whole thing. I'm privileged.
Mm-hmm.
I have been asked to do something. We all have. It's not just me.
100%.
We all have.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to find it. We need to find that thing that energizes us. So I'm like an INTJ or something or along those lines, and I'm kind of introverted, and I need to be action oriented. So what I learned during this sort of semi-retirement phase, I wasn't really in retirement. I was just like semi-retired just to take care of my kids full time.
Transition area.
Transition, sure.
Yeah.
I needed to do something where I'm going to give something back.
Yeah.
Something that had purpose. And I was not in purpose when I was on Wall Street. And every morning I woke up, I said, I want to change the world. As cliche as that sounds, I know that sounds really cliche. I want to change the world. I want to change the world. And it took, until I got to my 40s to, wow, okay, I found it. And it completely resonated with me when it dropped. Vertical organic farming, I'm bringing the farm to the urbanites, and I'm going to solve the food paradigm and the challenges in the food paradigm for people who live in cities. I was like, that's it. And that's the privilege that I had that was given to me, meaning that it downloaded me and I recognized it. Because, people are thrown opportunity every day. Do you recognize your opportunity? Do you recognize it when it lands on your plate or on your lap? And then will you pick up the baton and freaking run like your life depended on it? And that's where I am today.
Now, a couple things come to mind here, all right? We mentioned principles a lot on this show. One is the quality of our lives is dictated by the quality of questions that we ask ourselves. So you said, I want to change the world. And then you started asking yourself the question, how am I going to do that? Now, you talked about pick up that iron while it's hot. The thing is, you were striking and striking and striking, and you made that iron hot.
Absolutely.
Because you were asking the questions, you were looking, you were putting in the work, which is why you appreciate it and which is why you cherish it and understand the importance of it.
You have to dig. You have to dig.
Nothing good is going to come easy.
You have to dig.
You could put the iron in people's hands.
Exactly. They won't even know.
You're not going to know.
Yeah. You have to be. The only way you'll recognize it if you're in search of it. The only way you recognize it is if you keep picking away at that and say, okay, it's not this. No. And I tried maybe half a dozen projects. And they were all about making money. They're all about that. Then I just changed the paradigm a little bit. I said, no, I don't really care about the money so much. I do. I needed to make money. There's no question about that. I needed to make money. But what I defined money as, and everybody knows this, I'm sure your listeners who are more enlightened know this, money is a byproduct. Money is a byproduct of what you do.
It's the outcome.
The love that you put into the work that you do. And so for me, it wasn't about giving charity. I just wasn't accomplishing contentedness, purpose. It was about actually being in the trenches and doing something. And then I had to find what it was. And so when it landed, when that thought entered into my realm, I recognized it as that's it. And so then I pursued it. And then I came upon hydroponics and this kind of farm and that kind of, and this is a way of growing. And I know nothing about microbes. I know nothing.
Finance guy.
All I know are spreadsheets and structuring securities. That's all I know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I just had a thought come up here about currency, okay? Currency, the root word is current, perhaps. Like electricity, energy.
Yes.
Right? And then you've heard this term, money is energy.
Yes.
Right? So here's my notion. The more positive energy you put out in the world, the more currency/energy you get in return. Now, I think we need to get a little bit more micro here. There's monetary currency. Then you have the people in the world that get theirs back not monetarily, such as I don't know, let's say a nun, for example, that gives their life to
Yes.
the Lord and helps people relentlessly every day. But my point is, currency, that energy, could equate to contentedness slash happiness. Because think about this, good energy is what makes you happy. You step into a room full of bad energy
Absolutely.
people, you're like, why is this bringing me down? Why is this
No
moving
question.
me down, right? You step into a room full of happy people, excitement, right? Electricity, you feel good.
Yep.
So I think we all need to take a moment and think about what kind of energy are we putting out into the world, right? And if you want more back, think about how you can put more out for more people.
Yep.
Boom.
100%. You actually do not need. I don't want to say penniless. I mean, I've been scraping the barrel for quite some time, and I wasn't. I had everything. I had homes around the world and the whole 9 yards. But for whatever reason, I'm in a place where I've invested a lot of money, and it's a struggle. But it doesn't matter.
No,
Right? It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
Financially, I'm speaking financially specifically. It doesn't matter because you're on path.
And we don't focus on the outcome here. Not on this show. We focus on the process.
Yes.
Because it's not whether you win or lose, right? It's how you play the game. And the fact that you're getting up every day and you're playing that game to the best of your ability, that's the electricity. That's the fire.
Yeah.
The excitement.
It is
What's up?
yeah, so I personally don't describe it as excitement or some of that. To me, it's work. To me, it's work on purpose that I'm desperately trying to get over the finish line. And we can talk about what the finish line means and all that stuff, but you can gather what that means. That contentedness is what the driver is. I'm not delusioned that this is not going to be easy. This is very, very hard. Very, very hard. And if I knew how hard it was, I don't think I would have done this because it's so hard. You're alone. You cry. I cry. I've had my share of cries.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's exciting, and it's something that's yours, and you're bringing it to the world. From that standpoint, the only issue I have with the hesitancy I have with excitement is I'm privileged. I'm humbled.
Yes.
That I feel like I've achieved such an incredible opportunity, or I've been handed such an incredible opportunity, and it's a massive responsibility. So for me, I'm not describing it as excitement. I describe it as more that, wow, this is a massive responsibility, and I want to do it right. And so whatever that emotion is, analogous to excitement is the word. I don't have a word for it right now. But it's this thing where I have been given, it's a deep gratitude. I have been given as I said, privilege, and I'm definitely excited to bring it to the world, but in the most humblest way possible.
I think that the best part about it is that it provides the opportunity for excitement.
Sure.
Like you're on the road to having an extremely exciting moment or several moments. Like think about when you check off that thing that you're going for, right? Right? When you're there.
Yep.
It's like, wow, I did it.
Yep.
Right? And just that thought
Yep.
is a little it's exciting.
I'll give you a practical example.
Yeah.
And this is what excites me.
Tell me. Yeah.
One of the customers that we're speaking with is a homeless community in Austin.
Over east?
Yes.
Okay.
Over east.
Okay.
And I've had about 3 or 4 conversations with the CEO, and he said, I like what you're doing, and let's talk further. So there's a meeting coming up in January where we're going to talk about the practicality of growing food on premises. And so that's still me, right? That's still me doing something.
Yeah.
But what really excites me is the vision of where that's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, as we add on more and more growing apparatuses so that we can grow more and more, I'm going to get the community involved and teach them how to grow. Not only will they be able to grow for, let's say, 12 to 20% of their dinner plate, because greens are about 12 to 20% of your dinner plate, but eventually they can grow in excess so they can set up farm stands and become suppliers for themselves and earn a dignified income opportunity.
Yes.
That's what excites me.
Right.
Teach a man to fish, in other words.
Dude. Oh my gosh. That's powerful.
So that's that kind of
Wow.
that kind of knowledge transfer is really what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in transferring my mortgage-backed securities knowledge to people. I just couldn't be bothered. It's an incredible subject, but I just couldn't be bothered. It's just a complete waste of time. And, going back to these first principles, if the world was going to end, it was what you're doing today going to be relevant if the world comes to an end. And so for me, that was what I needed. That's where I needed to be. If the world came to an end, am I a cast out, or am I someone that can add value to the community that's left behind? So growing food is a big part of that.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Jeez. Now, let's say somebody gets this moment of innovation. Let's say somebody's standing in their condo and they say, I want to change the world for the better. I want to help people live a better life. It's essentially what you're doing, right? And they embark on this long, treacherous road of entrepreneurialism. What's something that you learned along the way that you never thought would be true?
Wow. That's a tough question. Okay.
Or perhaps something that surprised you the most?
If you are, what I've learned is that money truly is a byproduct. If that is true, and
it's not the end, it's only a means.
It's only a means. That is true, meaning that what you do for the good of humans, and if you do it in a systematic way, and it's something that humans want, that people want, or animals, it could be the earth, it could be all living things, because that's what matters. That's what I believe I'm going to be asked about. And if you do it for that love, you'll be fine. You will survive, and money is a byproduct. You'll be fine. You can drink from that and eat from that all day long, even if you never get another dollar in your bank account. That's what I found to be truth. And I don't mean actually physically eating, but just the mana, the energy that you get from doing that, bringing that solution to market is something that works. It works. You'll always be taken care of by the universe, by God.
Wow. Well said. Well said. What are a couple of books that you've read along the way that really helped you?
So I'm currently reading The Obstacle is the Way.
Yeah. Charge the Storm. Go right into it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I'm reading another book on health, and I have I've had this on my bookshelf for quite some time, and it's Steve Jobs' book. That's the one that comes to mind.
Is that a picture of his face on the cover?
Yes, the name
is called Jobs. No, that's a movie. I don't remember.
The name escapes me. But it's on my shelf. I've got usually about 10 books that are out there, but The Obstacle is the Way is probably One of my top reads, Breathe is almost done, or Breath, I think. It's Breath. And then the last one that I'm in the middle of is I Have Something to Say.
Cool. Now, were these pivotal books for you, or are they simply for pleasure, or what's the nature behind reading them?
Yeah. If I'm going to do something for pleasure, I'll watch a movie or something else. These are injections. Like taking an injection.
Yeah.
For where I am in my journey at that point in time.
Got it. You
Yeah.
say, hey, this would help me right now.
Right now. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any books that you read that kind of changed your life at all?
I think yes. In high school, the normal reading in high school, Of Mice and Men. If you really start thinking about these books that you're given in high school, they're so deep. Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, Of Mice and Men. I still draw on some things from that story. And then Brave New World in 1984. They all have a part to play in the venture that I'm in right now.
That is incredible.
Yeah, so the timeless books for me, and for my children, and for you and your audience, that I would impart the one privilege that we have in the United States, perhaps in Europe, and I did spend some time in Europe in my early years in Europe, but in the United States we have this emphasis in high school on liberal arts studies, on culture, which China does not have, which some Asian countries do not have.
That's good perspective.
And that is our advantage. So in the age of AI, which is so cookie cutter, meaning it's numbers and, who's going to do it faster. The one that will win out is the one that has this extra edge of culture and liberal arts or humanities. Yeah. In their backdrop. And that is those are the people I believe that are going to lead the way to the next massive change that we're experiencing today in the world as a result of this technology, Web 3.0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This technological.
Yes, exactly.
Technologically advanced?
Yes, exactly.
Get that right?
Yeah. Web 3.0, this new era that we are now find ourselves in. And it's 6 years and the world's going to change in such a massive way.
I believe it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You think about, you were there when the first tape cassettes were out.
Yes, I was.
And then CDs.
Yes.
They're all gone.
Yes.
No one's using a cassette anymore. Right? Now we're all internet streaming. Yeah. And that wasn't a matter of what? 30 years?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I remember using tapes to record on the radio. And all of a sudden, CDs came out.
Yeah.
And then they're gone.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
The next 30 years are going to be the next 5.
Right.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Okay. Let me see here. I was going to ask you a good question. And sometimes I forget as a host, but that's okay.
Yeah. That's okay. Me too.
Oh, shoot. That's all right. We're just going to keep moving on here. Yeah. It'll come to me. Oh, yeah, this is what I was going to ask you. What's on your wrist? On your right wrist?
Oh, it's just, it's actually more of a medical device.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not a device, but typing for so long.
Yeah.
It's for carpal tunnel. I don't have carpal tunnel, but I sometimes feel the sensation as I'm just being overly protective. So any little anomaly that I see in my body, so I've become much more attuned health-wise to my body. The way I sit, and I know I slouch.
Posture.
Yes, posture, and maybe taking corrective measures. Even I used to wear, Ferragamos in my Wall Street times, and so those Ferragamos are very pointy, and so they've created a slight protrusion in my bunion, and so even that I find abnormal, and for me correcting that is important. So everywhere. If I feel like something is, I understand the source of it, So, for instance, typing too much is leading to a little bit of a sensation in my hand, and I know what that is, and so I'm just going to, do it because I'm right-handed, and you use your right finger for the mouse, on the mouse pad. And then just the way you sit, and so these are very important. I believe that we've also entered an era where, we don't have death in our power. We can't. We have quality of life in our power.
Big time.
We cannot control when we're going to die, but we have quality of life. And we might be entering into an era where people are going to be living longer. That seems to be the party line. And so if I'm going to make it to 80 or 90 years old, I want to make it to 80 or 90 in my current body or better.
Yeah.
So I'm always watching for that, and I'm always making sure that my exercise routine, which is one set to failure, is designed around preservation of my bones and my, libido and, all of the above.
Optimization.
Yeah.
It's a buzzword, and I think it's going to take off like wildfire.
Yeah.
In fact, I've seen that guy on YouTube who has the genetic DNA of like a 30-year-old.
Yes.
And he's 45 or something.
Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian Johnson.
You've seen him. And I was on a dating app the other day, flipping around, and she said her age on there was 37. But then in the description, she said that she's 42, but her biological age is 36.
Nice.
I said, that's the first time I ever seen that.
Yeah.
Huh. This is where we're going.
Yes.
It
is where we're going. Yes.
And bringing it back to books, I finally remember what I was really going to say. Bringing it back to books. I had this conversation with a buddy the other day. I always say that books are the gateway to our future. And I mean that as, like, if you read and you're intentional and apply what the books say or understand the meaning and the message, it's like a fast track to getting where you want to go.
I agree.
That's just been my experience.
100% agree.
Once I started reading, life started unfolding in front of me.
Yep.
In a pleasant way.
Yep.
Right? Can you agree?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Sorry. Reading is so important. And now there are better ways to read. You can read through ChatGPT, for instance, and get things summarized. And so you can consume a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I read more. I really do wish I read more because it opens up massive perspective.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So,
how do people get a hold of you, Aamir?
I guess the best way is, so my website is modgarden.com. I guess the best way to get a hold of me is through Instagram.
What's your Instagram?
At Modgarden.
At Modgarden.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Yeah. Holy crap.
Or Twitter.
Modgarden on Twitter. Also last year.
Yeah.
X.
Yes.
What a freaking fired up story this is.
Awesome. Thank you.
I can't wait to see where you take this. I know you got some big things in the works. We're going to keep that under wraps. We want to keep that energy tight.
Yes.
Hold it close to our chest.
Yes.
Freaking amazing. We're all here rooting for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Guys, reach out to Aamir. And till next time, we'll backtrack. Hold the phone, Greg. We got part 2 coming at you. We're dropping tomorrow on Thursday. And we're going to tap into his life story. We want to know what events he had to go through to build him up to who he is today. And I'm sure it's been a wild ride. He gave us a couple snippets along the way.
Yeah.
We're about to tap into that. Till next time, everybody, Greg Carlson. Aamir.
My privilege.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stay fired up.